You are listening to the Intelligent Vocalist Podcast, episode 183.
Welcome to the Intelligent Vocalist with John Henny. This is the podcast dedicated to help you be a smarter, better, more informed singer. And now, your host for the Intelligent Vocalist, John Henny.
Hey there, this is John Henny. Welcome back to another episode of the Intelligent Vocalist. I do so appreciate you spending your precious listening time with me. Today is a topic that is quite near and dear to my heart lately because it's something I'm wrestling with on a daily basis, and that is finishing a project. A number of years ago, I went to a symposium in Las Vegas, and it had a lot of speakers on internet marketing and course creation, etc. And the one thing I remember from the entire weekend was one person, when they were asked the secret to their success, their slogan was, "Only done gets paid." And that really hit me because truly only done counts. If you want to bake a cake for somebody and that cake doesn't make it into the oven, or if it's supposed to be a layered chocolate cake and you bring it out of the oven but you don't put the icing on it, you can't really serve the cake. You've got to finish it. Now, I find cooking and baking actually, as you get to the end of the process, gets a little easier. The hard part tends to be the prep work and all getting started in the beginning. And it's kind of the opposite in creative endeavors, I found. The start of a creative endeavor is so full of opportunity and ideas and excitement, and it can go any which way, and every decision that you make is not a final decision. You have lots of options, and you can always go back and change things. And you're really in that what they will call more right brain creative state, and things tend to flow, and it's fun. And then you hit the point where inspiration begins to peter out. And now you have to start to work. And then it gets hard. And I'm sure many of you listening to me have drawers full of unfinished songs, unfinished lyrics in notebooks, recording projects that didn't quite get there. You started working on the vocal and you weren't happy with your voice, and so you decided to set it aside for a few days, and a few days became a week, and then the next thing you know, you haven't looked at it for 6 months, and then you've lost interest, and the idea of picking it back up just seems like horrible drudgery. And what you did, and we're all guilty of it, I certainly am, but when it got hard, you stop pushing. And that's the moment that you need to push and push through. It happens with voice training. In the beginning, it's rather exciting. You've decided to take your voice seriously, and you've researched voice teachers, and you've found a voice teacher that you think you really click with. And you do your first couple of lessons, and you have the recording, and you start practicing, and you're noticing changes in your voice. And it's rather exciting. And then you hit a plateau. And sometimes plateaus, not only do we get stuck there, but it feels as if we are getting worse. And it can be a while between breakthroughs. Very often improvement doesn't happen on a steady incline, but rather we have a breakthrough, and then our skill level will drop off a little bit from the breakthrough, and then we plateau. And then it's another breakthrough, we fall off a little bit, and then we plateau. And the key is being able to stay in these plateaus and push through the plateaus so that you get the next breakthrough. And especially through the periods where you feel like your skill is declining, that's when you've really got to stick with it, and that's when it is hard. And that's why routine is so essential. So my situation, I've been talking about it for a while on the podcast. I've got my new book coming out, The title is Beginning Singing, and naturally it's for beginning singers. And you would think that this would make the book easier, but actually it makes it quite tricky because I am introducing concepts that I introduce here on the podcast. But the way I talk to you listeners is I assume that you are coming to this podcast because you really want to understand singing on a deeper level. And some of the knowledge that I talk about in the acoustics and the science is built upon previous episodes. And if you just happen to come to a single episode and there are concepts that you don't understand, people tell me they go back and start listening to previous episodes and it starts to come together for them. And I believe these concepts are extremely important in singing, how resonance works and controlling vowels, etc. But this book is written for people who have little experience in singing, or maybe they have a bit of experience, but they don't really know what they're doing. They're kind of frustrated with their voice. And I am introducing these concepts to them, but I can't do it in a very deep way because what happens is you just open up the Pandora's box. You go down a rabbit hole of bringing up one concept, which you then explain with other concepts that need to be defined and illuminated. And then it just keeps going and going and going. And then you just have this confusing, unwieldy book that no one's going to finish. And so I'm sitting with this manuscript, which is basically done. And there are just a couple of concepts that I am wrestling with. And I'm literally wrestling with a few paragraphs in this book. And I have rewritten these paragraphs so many different ways and changed my approach so many different ways. And I am not looking forward to the next time I have to go and work on this book, because I've been pushing the rock up the hill and I'm almost at the crest of the hill, but the rock has just gotten really heavy and it's getting frustrating. And then what starts to happen is you start to doubt yourself and you start to look back and think, well, wait, is the book even any good? And I'm just being really honest with you. I've gotten amazing feedback on this book, and I know it's just my brain being a little paranoid. It's just imposter syndrome that creeps up on all of us. But I've got to push through this thing. I got all the illustrations done. So the illustrations are in the book and all the scale examples. I'm getting the cover designed right now. But each little step is just killing me. And I so want this book to be out there, to be over the process. And this is now the third book I've done, but this is the book I've really gotten stuck on. Because my previous books were written for voice teachers, and I could assume a level of understanding, and I really knew who I was talking to. And I know who I'm talking to in this book. And I don't want to look down on the audience, but I don't want this book to be confusing. I don't want this book to be something that somebody opens up and then they hit a paragraph and go, oh, that kind of doesn't make sense. This is getting a little dry. And then they don't get value from it. And I want this book to be of value to people. And so what I'm doing, and this can be something you do when you've got that project, is, first of all, I don't allow myself to wallow in these thoughts, even though I've been wallowing in them for the last 5 minutes. But when they come, I'll dismiss them, or I'll just allow myself to go in a bit of a mindful state and just watch the thought recede, watch the doubt recede. That's why mindfulness, I find, is so incredibly helpful for creatives, because our minds tend to race, and the judgment that we feel and the self-criticism can be stifling. especially as you come to the end of a project, especially as you're finishing those vocals and you're listening back and part of you just hates your voice and you want to re-record the whole thing. But the other part of you knows you've just got to get it out there. And mindfulness can get you to let go of these thoughts. And so I will go into mindful states to keep the doubts at bay. And I will set aside time each morning that I work on this book. And I set a timer. And when I hit that timer, I don't do anything else. I turn off all alerts on my computer. I don't have my phone. Actually, that's not true. My phone is turned away from me. I don't see the screen, but I run a app called Brainfm. And I've got my little earbuds in, and Brainfm is this scientifically programmed music that can help you focus. And I find it helpful. I don't know how much of that is overblown, but I do find it helpful. It's atmospheric, pulsing music, and it does help you get into a flow state. And I will do that for 25 minutes. The timer dings. I take a break for 5 minutes, 10 minutes at most, and I sit back down for another 25 minutes. And every day I do at least 2 of those 25-minute focused periods of work. And even if I'm stuck and I'm hating what I'm doing and I'm in resistance, and that's the big thing, as you come to the end of these projects, man, does your mind want to go into resistance and procrastination, and suddenly there are dozens of things I think I should be doing, looking up the most ridiculous stuff on Wikipedia, or wanting to debate people on Facebook, which I do a pretty good job of not letting myself fall into. But in those 25-minute periods, there's no temptation because I've made a pact with myself that I am going to work. And when I've done those 2 periods, what I've gotten done for the day is what I've gotten done. What I've gotten done for the book is what I've gotten done. If I can devote more time, I will. And it's always a plus. But if I've at least done that, I know the book is progressing. So this morning I sat, and for 2 25-minute periods, I rewrote a few paragraphs over and over and over. And then I set it aside, and a little later in the day, it kind of came to me what I should do. Whether or not that's going to work when I sit back down tomorrow, we'll see. But I think I'm really, really close. And so I think within the next day or 2, the manuscript will be completely done. And then just need the cover, the design approved. And then that's the great thing about doing your own book. I'm self-publishing my book. And not that publishers are knocking down my door, but for something as niche down as singing and learning to sing, it's not something certainly big publishing houses aren't looking to do. And what I'm able to maintain by publishing myself is I can control how the book goes out there. And I'm going to do this when the book is released. I'm going to have the book for free on Kindle. And I can do that because I don't have to get permission from a publisher. And I can send people to my website for auxiliary materials to the book, which helps traffic on my site, to be quite honest, and helps people discover more about me rather than going to a publisher's website. So I like the control that it gives me. That's not to say if a huge publishing house wanted to put a bunch of money behind it, I wouldn't consider that. But that's not going to happen with a niche book like that. And there's been a huge revolution in publishing, just as there has been in music, and self-publishing is open to anyone and everyone. And I have managed to get a lot of copies of my Teaching Contemporary Singing book out there. It's actually quite amazing to me. And it hit number one on Amazon in multiple categories in multiple countries. And that's really in a huge part thanks to the power of the podcast. You listeners, people on my mail list, I'm really, really grateful for the audience that I have. I'm just really supportive. It's quite amazing. When I asked for test readers for this book, I had over 200 people download the book, and a lot of them sent very, very detailed notes, and it was actually overwhelming. And a lot of it was they were finding the same typos, although it's rather incredible. There were little sneaky typos that only one or two people would find, and this is even after the book had been through a thorough edit. But then I had people point out how maybe some things could be phrased better, or they wouldn't quite understand maybe this concept. So just incredibly helpful. But I was just amazed at the number of people who took the time to help me with this book. So I really have high hopes for this book. I'm really excited, and people really seem to enjoy it. But man, I am just in that last push. And this push, it's killing me. And so I just have to not stress about it through the day and just know that the next day I have that period to get it done, and it will be done. And I'm really looking at mid-August. So if I'm talking to you in mid-August and the book is not out, well then shame on me. I hope I can blame it on someone else. Some snafu, because it can't be me anymore. I've got to get this thing done. So what I want you to do is to look at a project, and you know the one that's just kind of been bugging you, the one that you don't feel good when you think about it. You're a little disappointed in yourself because you let it slip when it got hard. You didn't tell yourself you were going to stop. You just let it sit for a couple of days, and now that couple of days has turned into months or more. And I want you to make a date with yourself within the next few days. Tomorrow is best. And I want you to set aside 20 minutes, and set a timer. And you are going to reopen that project. And for those 20 minutes, you're going to get a bearing on where it's at, what needs to be done, and then you're going to create a list, a checklist. And that's all you're going to do for that first day. And then the next day, give yourself another 20 minutes, set the timer, and then work on the first thing on that list for 20 minutes. And if you get done with it and there's still time left in the 20 minutes, work on the next step. And then start building up to 25-minute periods, 2 or even 3 of them in a day, separated by breaks. And if you know that clock is ticking, there is an energy to that. You know whatever you're working on, you've got to stop when that timer dings. When the 25 minutes is up, I have to stop. So I'll kind of push myself to get something done if I'm on a roll. And you do that 5-6 days a week. Your project 30 days from now is going to be in a very different place, if not finished. And that's my challenge to you. And if the project is your voice and you've set it aside, then pick that back up. Pick that challenge back up and do the same thing. 20 minutes, set the timer. And then go to 25 minutes and go twice a day. Or 2 25-minute sessions, one after each other, a little break in between. With the voice, if you haven't built up to it, you can maybe go 20 minutes, break, another 20 minutes. Doing more than 40 minutes, you've got to get some stamina built up. But in 30 days, your voice is going to be in a very different place. These small improvements every day are so powerful. And if you have a system that gets you to push through the block, just push through it. Just keep chipping away every day. It will fall and your project will be finished. And my book is going to come out. I promise you. Hey, if you want to know more about me, please visit my website, johnhenny.com. Be sure to sign up for my email list. You'll be the first to know when my book is available for free. Also, if you are interested in voice lessons, my associate, Darlene Yam, has some limited availability. Darlene has gone through all my materials. I've personally worked with Darlene for a number of years. I can't recommend her highly enough. You just contact front desk at johnhenny.com for more information. And until next time, to better singing. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.